Hello, 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 and welcome to the Rag Company podcast. I'm Dane Hennen. To my right, Levi Gates.
Hey guys, what's going on?
And to my left, Anthony Fisher.
Hey, what's going on?
And right there, last but not least, Morgan McMurray.
Hey everyone.
So, it's been a couple weeks in quarantine now. Haven't left the house too much. You guys have been going to the store. I've gone there a couple times with you just to get stuff arranged, but we are living a rather different existence now than we were a month ago. So,
Absolutely.
What have you guys done with your time?
Oh man, where do you even want to begin, Dane? Where do you want to begin?
I remember seeing a lot of
confused.
texts this weekend from Anthony screaming about rethreading like a manifold or a head or something. So I kind of want to hear about that because it sounds like it was a little bit of torture.
Well,
Okay.
remember, Anthony destroyed someone's car. So he's been working.
Wow.
He basically told the person, look, I will rebuild that engine for you.
From
and
scratch.
he has been having to cast. He casted a
Wow.
whole block this week, and then learned how to tap and drill all the holes and ports and all those things. So
Impressive.
really great. I mean, he started learning metallurgy.
Wow.
Which
how to
is
pull
just
titanium and all kinds of stuff. So
nuts.
really impressive. Really great job,
Okay.
Anthony, utilizing those skills.
Well,
Tell us more.
None of that has actually happened, but I am going to touch upon just some general business stuff really quick here before we
Okay.
jump in.
Oh, fine. fine.
I know, boring. But I want to give a shout out to all of our new Grand Ambassadors for quarter 2 of
Yes.
2020.
Congratulations,
everybody
guys.
Give a nice little clap.
Yay.
We're super pumped to have everybody on board. Includes one of our fans of the podcast, Vigor Auto Detailing. So Joe is now a Grand Ambassador, and I'm sure we have some other ones that are jumping on board on the podcast train now that they are a Grand Ambassador as well. And so super pumped to have everybody. Looks like we're going to create some really good creative content. We love the styles and kind of, what's cool about the Grand Ambassador program is always being able to see people attack detailing or people attacking, I don't want to call it attacking, but people doing things different on their own individual pages in terms of a really cool promotion and kind of spreading the word of premium microfiber and detailing products. And that's kind of the goal, is just to kind of spread awareness of the Rag Company and do so in a really creative and fun way to hopefully get more people interested in detailing or get more people interested in just, the ins and outs of detailing and microfiber. So really pumped to have everybody on board. So as of today, we're going to be creating their coupon codes. So if people weren't aware already, all of our Grand Ambassadors, even from 2019, have individual coupon codes for their followers, meaning for people listening to this that maybe haven't used their coupon codes before, but each one of them has a 15% coupon code, meaning that at this point, you can place literally 50 orders right now and use a 15% coupon code for each one of those orders to save 15% off if you guys haven't done so already. So make sure to follow our Grand Ambassadors. You can go back to our previous year and check them out to find those 15% coupon codes. They're not hidden. They're pretty public. Most of them have them in their description of their profile. So all you have to do is give them a follow or jump on their page, get that coupon, and then enter it into the ragcompany.com, and you'll save 15% off, which is a super, super good deal. And so anyways, we're going to be getting those new ones created today. So for all of our new ambassadors for quarter 2, as well as getting all of their products sent out this week. And so how this kind of works for people that don't know how the Grand Ambassador program kind of all comes together is we choose our 10 based off of our findings and kind of doing research on their profiles and seeing what their posting styles are, how consistent they are in posting, and kind of what they do to make themselves stand out. And once we do that, we choose them as being a representative of the Rag Company, essentially an extension of us, to where we keep in close contact and we check on them once a week, twice a week to see how things are going, see how they're liking the products, and then from there, we are sending them out product to be able to use. And so we want them to be able to utilize those products and obviously use them. But we send them a bulk amount of towels to be able to do giveaways with on their own personal pages, so they can actually give away 16 by 27 car wash towels in multiple colors, which is just a really all-around great towel. And then we also send them chemicals as well. And so the idea behind that is to get product shots from their end that we can reshare to our stories and things like that. But again, just to overall spread awareness and get some product into their hands so they can play with and they can pass out and do giveaways with and just kind of make it fun. And so it doesn't cost them anything. The only thing that would cost them anything is if they were to do a giveaway and then they were to mail out their giveaway items. Yeah. But other than that, we provide all the supplies, which is just a super cool thing. So anyway, so we're choosing that. So we've already chosen them. We're getting their discount code set up, and we're going to be sending out product here hopefully this week and getting product into their hands hopefully by next week so they can start playing and creating content and stuff, because it's springtime and we know that everybody is just itching to be able to do stuff. And so we feel like this is just a really good thing throughout the whole entire year. So we're pretty excited. Anybody have anything to say on top of that?
No, you're exactly right.
I've been really impressed with the level of creativity that a lot of them have come up with.
Yes.
I like seeing the copycats in the industry that have started to follow suit.
I mean, gotta be honest, it's been fun to see, because you see them pop up and you're like,
yeah,
oh, you were paying attention. Okay.
Yeah, it's cool. Pretty neat to see, and it's gone are the days of the, hey, just send me stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's still people out there asking whether they get it or not is another matter.
Still, yeah. I mean, we saw that at SEMA. There's still people that come up and ask. But it was neat while we were at SEMA to talk about the Grand Ambassador program to folks and say, hey, if you want to do this, this is what you do. Show us what you can do and what you're capable of. And that's been really neat to see. Just what they've been able to come up with, the story posts, the giveaways, probably my favorite thing about it. So I'm excited to see this new crop of Grand Ambassadors and, to see what they can do. So, and we're going around the world, we've got one in the UK and one in Germany. So, it's pretty exciting.
We oftentimes have folks from around the world in this, and that's one of the other cool things is we're not afraid to just go outside of our sandbox here in the US. We want to include everybody. So there's definitely a lot of fair game for a lot of people out there, as long as they're actually putting in a little bit of effort. It's kind of a skin in the game kind of thing where, okay, if you're actually trying, we notice that. And if you're good at engagement, then chances are you're going to do well. So, that's kind of what separates average from really impressive.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm just wiping down my keyboard right now because I was just
wondering what you were doing.
I'm like, this is this thing. I'm like, I was looking at. I'm like, this is really dirty. It wasn't looking good.
The only person who's touched it is you.
I know, and I like I said, I'm one of those guys where normally I keep things spotless, and I'm like, why the heck is that so dirty? Anyway, so continuing on.
Clean your glasses while you're at it.
Ooh, I already did, Morgan. Thank you. You're so
good
funny
to hear
when you say stuff like that. So
nice.
Anyway, so that's the Grand Ambassador program. Congratulations to everybody on board, and thank you to all the Q1 Grand Ambassadors that has absolutely killed it. We know we have a few listeners in the podcast that were Q1 Grand Ambassadors, and you guys just did an outstanding job. And so we're really excited to see you continue to post content because, as we've said, once you're a Grand Ambassador, you're always a Grand Ambassador. It's not like just because your quarter is ended or your year is over, you're no longer relevant. You absolutely are. And you're just extremely valued to us over here at the Rag Company. So, all right, anyways, my weekend, I guess, jumping into it. So Friday night, I went over to Jason's house, as I kind of explained a weekend ago. I polished it out with his help. And so we got it all dialed in. And basically, because he had a respray on the side of his car, we had to polish off the rest of the coating all around everywhere else on the car, and then recoat it was the kind of the plan. And so I don't want to get too far into this because it's just, basically it was a situation where he'd gone to a shop locally and he had gotten, let's just say he had a coating job that was paid out by insurance, and it was never cashed in. Right. And so basically when he went to go take it to that company, that company said, no, we can't, we can do it, right? But we have since sold the company to somebody else, and they would be doing it. And we kind of didn't really feel comfortable with a new company doing that coding because they had literally just started doing it. So,
well, they hadn't done coatings before,
and they hadn't
either,
done coatings before, right?
As far as I remember.
Yeah.
So basically, I will give it to them because they did say that they would do it. They would recoat that car, but it was more a matter of, okay, well, you haven't done this before. You're not technically certified in this. You've never used it. And
it's not a test hood.
It wasn't a test hood, and we just were like, okay, and the guy that had done it previously has just been completely hands off, and he just said, sorry, I'm not going to do it. And so, anyway,
what a nice guy.
Long story short, I reached out to Eric at G Technic and I said, hey, I would love to be able to use CSU and actually play with it and actually use it. And so I am not an installer. I am not offering a warranty. We can just call this product research at its finest, if you want to call it that. And so huge shout out to Eric. He sent out a bottle for us to play with. And so I ended up using that on Friday night and coating Jason's car. And so turned out awesome. I think that CSU is a fantastic product. There's no questioning whether or not it's durable or not, because the application process is I would say it's pretty involved. I would say it's not a simple wipe on, wipe off. It's definitely, you have to kind of plot your course when you're doing this coating, and you have to, not bite off more than you can chew. And a big thing I'd recommend, going into it for my first time using that product, I went into using it with 3 pearl weaves. And so I used the edged pearl, the green pearls that we have, and I used like a 3 towel system to where basically 1 towel to knock off most of the coating or level it, I guess I should say, and then a second towel to kind of follow up, and then a third towel to really finish it out. And what's kind of cool is that in G Technic's line of towels, they have a couple towels to use as their kind of knockdown towels, and then they have a pearl weave that's designed as their haze buster, right? And so the way I saw it was, well, why wouldn't I just go into it immediately with a pearl weave and then follow up with an extra or 2 extra to completely eliminate any haze and to really level it out perfectly? And I felt like the pearl weaves were just amazing for that job. I couldn't have asked for a better towel, and I wouldn't have done it with a different towel. So if somebody would have said, would you use a 365 or Creature or anything like that? No, I would just go into it with 3 pearls, and we were able to do the whole car with just 3 pearl weaves, which at the cost for a professional coder, if you were to buy a case, would be $3 in towels. And then you could toss those towels. So just a really affordable, really safe and friendly towel to use for that coating. So coated the whole car, turned out fantastic. And that was kind of my Friday night. And it was kind of cool because Jason was kind of like my what do you call those guys that have the towels over their arms and hand you a towel when you need it?
Yeah, he's like your towel.
I think they're called valeters. I think in your country they call them valeters.
I believe in your country you call them valeters.
I said valeters because I was used to valet being the word because you don't pronounce the et.
Valeters.
And it was just like, oh, and then you explained what it was, and he's like, oh, valeters, and it's
yeah. So he was your valet because a valet would.
That's what I get for trying to be smart.
Yeah. So he was kind of just handing me towels as I went through the whole car, and let's just say it made that really, really easy. But I really like the coating. I feel like it's just like I said, there's no question of durability on that thing. When you're applying it, you're like, oh yeah, this is a 9-year coating for sure. So
well, one thing I wanted to ask you about that was you said it was more challenging to apply than say like a more consumer grade coating, and I thought that was something that was important to note because I think there's at least a decent sized contingency of people out there who are like, oh, well, that professional coating, it's basically the same stuff as a consumer grade. They just mark it up and I'm being ripped off and all that stuff. It's like, no, there's actually a difference. So if you could speak to that a little more, I think that's an important point for people who maybe know enough to be dangerous, but don't actually understand the differences.
Yeah. So a beginner could not install CSU. I mean, at least in my opinion, if you were to say a person that went straight from waxing their car, using a sealant on their car, to using CSU, they're probably going to have a bad time.
Okay.
I would say that because me and Levi have used so many different types of coatings, and I just know, how do I say this? If you've used Inspiration by PNS, I think you could pretty much apply any coating. I think that is hands down probably one of the most difficult coatings to use. But if you have used that, then you can use CSU for sure. And I think that, in terms of like comparing it to gloss coat, I mean, there's no comparison. Gloss coat is so easy and so forgiving that you could have a high spot sit there for an hour and then come back and knock it down and you'll be okay.
It's like the bunny hill.
Whereas with CSU, like there was one area on Jason's trunk and that I kind of over wiped on, and his trunk wasn't supposed to be coated because he was going to take that in and get it resprayed separately. So it was just kind of like, oh, if I hit it, I hit it, but it's not a big deal. So I did have a mark that I left a high spot, and I kind of saw it and I said, well, I'll let it sit for like 30 minutes or so, then try to come back and knock it down. And I tried, and honestly, you're going to do more damage trying to remove a high spot that's been sitting for that long with CSU than you would remove it. I mean, you're going to probably mar the hell out of the paint trying to get that off. And so that's just a quick little test. I ended up just applying more CSU over that high spot and then kind of like blending it in, and it worked out just fine. So, but I think from a beginner standpoint, I still think that gloss coat is hands down the easiest. But I would say that CSL, which I haven't used, but Levi has, I would say is probably substantially easier than CSU.
It is. It's got a longer flash point, so to speak. So
okay,
gotcha.
Kind of like gloss coat in the sense that it's not as fast as say crystal sealant, or not crystal sealant, but as Inspiration.
Yeah,
Inspiration's very quick. CSL is more like gloss coat in terms of length of duration that you have. You could possibly get half of a car coated and then, or a quarter of a car coated and then come back. And wipe it off. Where Inspiration, for those that have never tried it, I mean, you're lucky if you're at a panel.
I was gonna say with Inspiration, it's consumer available, but it is kind of like bridging the gap. It's very close and more similar to ProGrade than
well, and you can do 2 coats of Inspiration.
Well, they can even warranty it if you're,
well, and Anthony and I have only ever done 1 coat on our cars, and we've had crazy success. Just over 2 years with these coatings.
We had it on the Camry, didn't you?
I have it right here next to me.
Yeah.
Like that's going on 25, 26 months now on this. So it's time to do it again, but it's still holding up really well. So
no, I agree. I think that, Inspiration, I think that somebody, if you have experience with coatings, I think that you can make that a 5-year coating. Absolutely. No problem if you were to do a couple coats. And so, but CSU is just it's a different beast,
a different animal.
But like I said, I think that if you've experienced using a coating that can get kind of sticky within 30 seconds, then I think that you can pretty much do anything. So I'd say just don't bite off more than you can chew. But I really do think that the product feels extremely slick after you're done. And obviously the longer that it cures, the slicker that it gets. So after about an hour after that it was applied to a panel, you could notice that it was getting glossier as it began to cure, and as well as slicker. And so
that was something I was going to ask you about, Anthony, when it came to the actual, like, immediately as soon as you were done, you sent some pictures and some notes saying like certain products were looking slicker sooner versus others. I think you were saying that when you're putting this coating on, it wasn't as immediate an effect as you were looking for, maybe.
Correct.
There was something that was a little different than your normal experience from other products.
Yeah. So everybody looks for that, like kind of that instant gratification, right? When they're applying a coating, right? Because, in a lot of people's opinion, nothing looks better than a freshly coated car. Really, a freshly coated car looks pretty insane for the most part, and especially after about a week. And so I would say that, the immediate wipe off, right? You don't have that instant gratification with CSU. You're kind of like, it almost looks like it's the job that you left it with once you finish polishing, right? So you're getting that exact look. You're not really getting a change in look immediately.
You're just locking it in.
Yeah, correct. Whereas I feel like, honestly, I think with like OptiCoat Pro, for example, I think that there is a little bit more instant gratification there as you begin to wipe it off. In terms of slickness, they're about the same. I would say pretty marginally, close. And so gloss coat, kind of the same thing. You do have a little bit of that instant gratification there. But with CSU, I mean, I would imagine that probably within a couple days or a week after it's been fully cured, I think that you're going to have all that gloss there. And then you can also top CSU and CSL with EXO, which is their hydrophobic layer is what they call it. And so it's basically another harder layer that goes on top that is essentially extremely hydrophobic and extremely slick as well. So if you don't have the slickness that you're looking for, maybe CSL or CSU right off the bat, I think topping it with EXO is really going to take that home for you. And so, I would say that, it was a good experience. And I said, like, I like learning, and I feel like, Eric sent that out not only as a friend, but also to help me learn more about the product line. And I think that, especially with G-Technic, their line is so focused around coatings that I feel like, if me or Levi didn't have experience with their coatings or a heavy experience with their coatings, we wouldn't feel comfortable, talking about the rest of the line, because that's where everything is kind of based on. It would be like saying, hey, Optimum is great, but I haven't used O&R, right? And you're like, well, that's the staple product in the whole line. Have you not used that? And so I feel like their coatings are definitely a staple. So I'm really excited to top it with C2V3 here in a couple weeks, and I think that it'll be pretty awesome looking. So I did that Friday night, and then Saturday morning I woke up early because I needed to tackle a stupid project from a really dumb mistake, and I kind of talked about this on the Thursday Q&A. But when I spray painted my lip in my garage, I was just dumb and lazy. I didn't take my motorcycles out of the garage. I just kind of left them in there. So once all the dust settled from when I was spray painting, I noticed that I had a nice fine layer of overspray on my bike's painted parts. And, you couldn't see it, but you could feel it, right? So when I went to go wipe down the bike, I was like, oh, this is grabby. Well, what the hell's going on? And then it all dawned on me, and let's just say I was really mad for probably, a good couple hours. And and so what I ended up doing was I repolished out my Triumph, which I haven't done in a couple of years. And let's just say bike detailing is definitely, it can be really, really easy, but it could also be really tedious because you do have so many small parts. And, if you're using a polish and you get some polish fling, or if you're using, you're cleaning things up, you can get just a lot of product and a lot of adjacent things that is just extremely, obvious once everything dries. So I ended up just cleaning it up. And one fun fact that I will point out there for a lot of people that that may find themselves in this situation, and I kind of explain this, when it comes to removing overspray, there's a couple different ways to go about it. I mean, most commonly is clay barring and using a clay lube and just claying it off, and you can typically remove most overspray in that situation. Some people will use an all-purpose cleaner. I'm sure Levi has probably used lacquer thinner at some point. So I'm sure there's maybe. And I'm sure maybe even just washing the bike might be able to remove some of the finer overspray dust and probably make a pretty big impact.
So but going back to your lacquer thinner for overspray. So majority of overspray should come off when, like you said, with claying or just a wash sometimes, hopefully if it's got some barrier protection. But when you do get into a spot where I used to have customers who'd come in and go like, yeah, my car just feels really, kind of dirty and it's just not cleaning up. And then you find that it's covered in overspray when you're claying. A lot of times, even if the clay doesn't break it, lacquer thinner will. So
Yeah.
that's when you hit it on the paint. But I always try to use lacquer thinner for a last resort when it comes to overspray because there's so many other options that are much easier to remove. So Dane, is that a lion behind you?
No, it's just my dog.
It's
So yes, it is a lion.
All right. Yep. Yeah, that looks like a lion. That does not look like a dog.
My dog is
Anyway.
just very majestic.
So-
Dane exotic. So anyway, okay. So going back to my findings here, right? So basically, when I found that the bike had overspray, obviously I do what every other OCD person does, is I start touching the panels and feeling how bad it is. But as I'm touching it, it's a black motorcycle, right? So I'm marring it every time I touch it, and I'm trying to use different towels and see if there's any product that I have, APC, all sorts of stuff. I got really frustrated, not frustrated.
Good job.
Frustrated.
Because I knew that I would probably have to polish it out, and one thing that was something that really didn't even dawn on me to try until like the last moment was, I was like, well, there's one thing I haven't done, and that's use the Ultra Clay Towel, which is a fine grade clay style with Optimum car wax, right?
Oh, okay.
And I was sitting there, I'm like, well, is that just gonna mar the paint, right? I mean, why wouldn't it?
Wash clay and wax.
It's a black motorcycle. It's definitely gonna mar it. And I said, well, let me just do a small area on the tank and see what happens. So after washing it and cleaning it, I dunked the towel in a little bit of O&R, pre-sprayed some O&R on the surface, and then I grabbed the Optimum car wax, sprayed a little bit into the towel, sprayed it onto the surface I was about to clay, and I kind of started rubbing it in. And amazingly enough, it not only did it remove the overspray, but it didn't mar the paint. And that was just something that I'm like,
it's almost it's almost like we're telling the truth.
Yeah,
these things work.
Well,
right?
But why would we do that? What's the incentive to do the right thing?
Well,
Right.
in
But
this,
you know what they say: the truth will come back to bite you, especially if you tell it in the first place, right?
Well, it's such soft paint that I didn't think it was possible, and that's why I didn't even consider it, because I'm like, there's no way this is going to absolutely jack it up. And so after doing that, it kind of just, it really just made that a concrete fact that is an extremely safe technique, and that it's not BS, right? That it will work, and that it will take off overspray, it will smooth out your paint, but it will not mar the surface anywhere near as much as maybe other methods. And so finding that, I was able to go through the whole bike, be able to remove the overspray. But the problem was I had already touched it so much that it was going to need to get polished out anyway. So for reference there, for people that need to remove contaminants, maybe off of a coated car or a car with soft paint and you don't want to mar it, I'm telling you right now, I don't think you're going to find a better combination than that Ultra Clay Towel and then spray wax. I just don't. I'm a genuine believer in that stuff now. So anyway, clayed the bike. So Saturday I polished it out using the little hybrid, got it all back to perfect again. And then I wanted to coat it in CSU. So I used some more CSU, coated the bike. Same process as I did with Jason's car. Turned out awesome, super, super slick. But I had to take off a lot of the panels, right, to be able to polish them in my hand, which is kind of annoying because there's certain pieces that you can't quite get to. So ended up doing that. Turned out awesome. Super happy with that, with how it turned out. And then let's see, Sunday I ended up cleaning up Katie's car because it was just looking pretty hammered. And then Sunday night, I was like, pretty bored, and I'm like, what can I detail, right? What's something that I can do that's just a really easy thing? And on my Evo, in the engine bay, I have a titanium exhaust manifold cover, right? It's a really cool little rare piece, and the unfortunate part is that in an Evo you have a hole in the hood, so all of your water drains down to where that exhaust manifold is. So that exhaust manifold was titanium, but it didn't have hard water spots on it. So the idea was, I'm just going to pull this thing off, I'm going to polish it out, and then I'm going to coat it with something, seal it with something, and throw it back on my car. Well, freaking go figure, story of my life is I go to remove this thing. There's 4 bolts. 3 bolts came out perfectly. The last bolt started to kind of fight me a little bit, taking it out. And I thought, it's probably just fighting me because it gets so hot and maybe there's some buildup or whatever. So end up cranking it out. And lo and behold, the bolt that I pulled out was stripped to hell. And I looked down inside the intake manifold and was also stripped, right? So I was at that point so mad, right? I'm like, well, I can't just leave this. I have to fix it. So I spent another hour figuring out what I can do to be able to fix that. And I went to the store, got a whole, what's it called? It's a helicoil set.
Which store did you go to?
AutoZone.
Okay.
And I don't know if anybody knows how a helicoil can be extremely involved if you don't have the right tools, or it can be very minimally involved if you have the right tools. I don't have the right tools for a lot of this stuff. So I got this helicoil thinking it would be an easy thing. It's not an easy thing. You pretty much have to bore out the hole to a much, much larger size, insert this helicoil spring down into that thing, and that becomes your new threads. Total pain in the ass. Not a fun thing to do. So went to the store, rented out one of these tap kits from an O'Reilly's. It was like $99, but then you get your money back, and tried that. And because the exhaust manifold is made out of cast iron, right? It's not aluminum. I ended up stripping the threads on the tap kit. So literally just destroyed this $90 tap kit, but I got my money back. So whatever. And at this point, dude, I'm so mad because it's an aesthetic piece, but a functional piece that needs to be on there. And I can't just have a gaping hole in my freaking manifold. So I ended up going back to the store, buying a larger drill bit, buying a whole tap and rethread kit. And believe it or not, man, I drilled it out, being pissed off, took this rethreader, and it took me about an hour to do, because you are twisting a rethreader into cast iron, which I don't ever recommend anybody ever doing that. It's probably one of the hardest things I've done. Ended up snapping the rethreader in half, right? Because of how much force I was trying to push through. So then I had to basically take a channel lock and try to do the rest of the work with the channel lock, backing it in, backing it out, blowing out the shavings, backing it in, backing it out, blowing out the shavings, doing it. Do that for like another hour.
It's the same level of tedious as like chiseling away at something for.
Dude, I'm sitting there and I'm like, I am so mad at this point that I should have just left it, right? Right when I backed out that screw, I should have said, nope, put that thing back in and call it good, right? Nope, I was just, whatever. So anyways, I ended up boring it out from an M8 to an M10, which is substantially bigger. Yeah. Boring that thing out, rethreading it. I finally got it. So I had a 20 millimeter bolt that goes down in there, and I was able to clear about 12 millimeters of thread. And I said, yep, that's good. I'm just going to get a shorter bolt and call it good. So long story short, I ended up polishing out the titanium, which I've never done before. So you can polish out titanium. And it can look really, really good. And what's kind of cool is titanium, you can polish it out. If you polish out a burnt area of titanium, that burn mark is something that is done by flame, by fire. And once you burn it, it's like a temporary dye is kind of how you can look at it. So you can actually polish off the blue portion of titanium.
So it'll go back.
It will go back to being silver again, right? So you want to be careful. So if you want that blue,
people like that blue on purpose a lot of times for their exhaust. So
so I would just say be super careful, because if you hit that blue, you might actually start polishing that blue or that gold or that purple off.
Were you able to put C5 on it or something?
So what I ended up doing was I polished out with the last cut, and a green Rupes pad looked awesome. I was super happy with how it turned out. And then I actually didn't have C5 with me because I left it at the office. So I ended up coating it with Wowo's crystal sealant. Because I know that thing can survive relatively high temperatures, and I kind of wanted to see, how well it's going to hold up.
That'll be an interesting test. Yeah.
But anyway, so now I have, 3 matching bolts, 1 massive bolt in the middle, but you never know the difference. And it was a good learning experience. And whatever. And so,
and then hope you never have to do it again.
And then I watched National Treasure last night, and I think that and I don't know if that quote is a real quote, but they said like Benjamin Franklin failed like 2,000 times at trying to make the light bulb. And he says, I didn't fail 2,000 times. I learned 2,000 ways not to make a light bulb. So that's kind of how I looked
Edison.
at it. Oh, it was Thomas.
Yeah, that was Edison.
Not Thomas Jefferson. Sorry. But anyway, so I was kind of like, well, I learned several ways not to tap and rethread a manifold. So that was
Benjamin Franklin was the kite in the lightning storm.
I watched National Treasure last week because being a member of the Gates family, it's
kind of built in
part of my history. So because
all right, kids, come meet your grandpa, John Voight.
It was funny because as I was watching that movie, I'm like,
when
great
grandfather
for the first time,
was Thomas Gates.
Loved it.
He came over and was in the Revolutionary War. Thomas Gates. So,
was he a Mason? What if he was?
I don't know. He came over from the UK.
But Dane, do you remember all the Mason marks that we saw on the East Coast on pretty much all those buildings?
They're everywhere. Everywhere.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. Anyway,
Morgan, what about you?
What did I do? I went over to my parents' house on Friday night because I had an online order of something that obviously, because all the stores are closed. So I ordered some stuff online and it got shipped to my parents' house because that's like the address that I have on hand for everything. And especially places where I don't normally order online from, I just buy it in store. So I went over to my parents' house to pick that up. And then I just helped my mom do a couple things around the house. So we have like the guest room that's upstairs, and I helped her wash the sheets and get the beds made and everything. And then helped her just clear out, just doing some spring cleaning and stuff, taking stuff from upstairs and bringing it downstairs so we could get rid of it. And then Saturday, I wanted to apparently rearrange my entire room. So I did that here, did all the laundry, did all the fun stuff like that. And then yesterday, I just kind of hung out and still haven't watched Tiger King because I just don't want to.
You're actively avoiding it.
So that's pretty much it.
Okay. Well, that's okay. So what did you watch? Assuming you watched something.
I just watched more Criminal Minds because once you start watching it, like you just keep going to the next episode, and that's just how it is. Yeah.
It's powering through.
Yeah.
Well, that pretty much answers that. Well, how about you, Levi? It sounds like you had some real detailing going on.
Well, I had a lot of walks with my children this weekend. Mostly we're trying to teach them that we have to get out and walk.
Didn't get yelled at this time, though?
Walks. No, we didn't get yelled at. But it's funny to see the just my kids. They're hanging out, they're playing in the backyard, but they're on screens all day. And so we're trying to get them to not be, I don't know, just that it can be a convenience, but it's also a very bad drug for them.
And I'm sure it doesn't help with the parents being on screens all day for work or a purpose.
Right.
Like
yeah.
that.
No. Exactly. And so it's very hard to when they see me on my phone or Carly on her phone,
well, you get to do it. Yeah.
Right. Well, they're on there. They want the iPad. They want this, and so we give them their time, but it's a necessity to break them from it. And so it's been funny to go like, we're just going for a walk. Come on. And have them throw fits. So that was a lot of the weekend, was just trying to get them out of the house. I think tonight I'm going to take them to the racetrack, like at the high school, and make them just run a lap or something.
Nice.
So we'll see.
Go.
But
make them do bleachers.
Yeah,
run.
That's literally what I'm gonna like. I got to figure out something because they're getting too smart, and they're like, "We're going for a walk around the block again." It's like,
well, attach
attach
some French fries on a string to like the back of a hoodie and make them run around the track while seagulls chase them.
So here's the deal: like Watson has started trying. He's fat. My corgi is fat, and so
no.
I don't know how he got there, but he's completely round, like a barrel.
Well, he's got short little legs.
Yeah, but he's gotten fat, so we've got to walk him. So I've been using that as an excuse, like we all got to go with Watson because he doesn't like walking by himself.
Roll
But
him.
so I've been hooking him up. Like Augie rode in the wagon or he rode his go-kart the other day and held on to the leash, and Watson pulled him for a little while. Hadley last night was on her rollerblades holding onto the leash, and Watson was pulling her. So we tried to have some fun with it, and that's, it's trying to come up with these different ideas and stuff. But I did a Suburban.
One thing you could do is you can get them a trampoline.
Yeah,
they have one. We already have a trampoline. It's one of the amenities here at the MOS HQ.
And they don't use that to wear themselves out?
No, they use it to sit on and sometimes jump a little bit, but then they both come back inside.
They ever do that thing where like you put a sprinkler under the trampoline and you jump on it?
We do that in the summer. That. Yeah, we do that in the summer. Yep. They'll jump on it.
No, I mean, do it now. They'll get really cold and want to,
that's the problem.
Move faster to warm up.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things to do, we called it when I was a kid, we called it the bouncing burrito. And that's when we get a blanket, lay it on the trampoline, right? And then roll somebody up in a blanket, right? Like a burrito.
Right.
And then you bounce them while they're in this. Because they can't move. And it is, dude, it's a thrill. It is so much fun as long as you don't land on your head, because then that hurts.
I thought he was going to say it's so much fun as long as you're not the one in the blanket.
Dude, no, you're not the burrito.
Dude, the being in the burrito is a good time. So try that. I'm telling you, like, roll up Hadley and then just roll up in a blanket and then just lightly jump. Don't freak her out.
So see,
and I guarantee
the problem with that, I can't jump on the trampoline because I get really bad motion sickness.
Well, Carly.
So can. I'm not a jumper on the tramp.
So take Watson and just bounce him off the thing.
The dog doesn't like it either. He's scared of that. So anyway,
but he's
point
built
is,
for it.
We have a trampoline. My children do not use it. They do go out. They do go out once a day and play, but it's, I always thought like they would live on the trampoline,
right?
Like they would jump till they were exhausted. No, they jump for like 10 minutes and then they're done and they come back inside.
Man.
So yeah, they're asking for the iPad again. So anyway, point is we're trying to break them from it. But weather was pretty decent this weekend, so they got to play outside quite a bit. And my buddy brought over his Suburban. So I worked on a Z71 Suburban, half ton, black, gray leather. I've done it a couple times. I think one time, and before that they had an Armada they called the Black Pearl, a Titan Armada, that they had before that. This one they named Burbank. And anyway, good family, cool family. So and I don't have a problem working on his car for him. So he brought it in. He said, I feel so sorry, it's hammered. I said, just make sure it's clean, like everything's out of it if you can possibly. And he's like, not a problem, I can do that. I said, if you can run it through a car wash, that would be even better. I would appreciate that, because I knew it was going to be rough. Most of his vehicles are pretty hammered. This thing was hammered. So I had quoted him $350 for the job. I was doing an interior on a Suburban with just an exterior one-step all-in-one polish. I wasn't going to do anything. I wasn't doing any. Dane, I sent you pictures and you had said like, "Ooh, looks like time for some solution finish." That is not an option for this vehicle, because I would have to charge him another $150 to put solution finish on.
Yeah, that plastic was looking more like a 10-year-old Avalanche.
Yeah, that's when I say that's trim restoration, and I'm not like, there's so much that needed to be done on this. So the majority was he wanted the interior cleaned, and then he wanted me to try and get some of the scratches out, is what he said. When I saw it, I screamed.
There were a few scratches. Like scratches had scratches.
A picture to the team. It looked like they'd been playing air hockey on the hood with boxes.
That sounds
this
right.
is a black Suburban. The scratches were so deep, and his excuse was, I think there were some cats that got on there. And I said,
that's not
these
cats.
Are boxes like slid across the hood.
Yeah, no, they were kind of uniform, and they were all parallel. So it was clearly something had gone across the hood in straight lines.
So needless to say, I started working on the interior. That took me, I was 5 hours into the interior when I had just gotten clean. got it clean. I hadn't
Yeah.
dressed it. I hadn't done the windows yet. I hadn't done a final vacuum.
So
I
what
hadn't
was
started
in
the
there
outside.
that made it so time consuming, other than just
Well,
being a big space?
It was just dirty. It was just dirty.
Yeah.
You know, there's soda spilled, you know, exploded on the headliner. The carpets were grody.
Oh.
The seats were grody. You know, the problem was they were just that level of dirtiness that the moment you put a cleaner on it, it made it really clean.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like you could just spray an interior cleaner and wipe it and call it good, because once you did that, where you wiped made it clean. So now you had to make everything match because it was all leather.
Yeah.
So then you clean and scrub everything, and when it scrubs it, you're like, man, it looks really good, and I'm getting a lot of this stuff out. But now I've got clean spots with dirty creases from all the dirt. So then you work on the creases to try and get them to even out. You know, granted, I got the leather looking good. I got the carpets looking as decent as they could. They were really bad. They started to smell too. Left it in my garage overnight, turned on my fan in my garage, and just pushed a bunch of air, rolled the windows down, opened the sunroof, and just tried to push as much air as possible over the car to dry it out. Put the kids to bed, came back out, and then used an all-in-one and just did a quick polish with a maroon pad, with the Euro foam, buff and shine maroon pad, and it's all in one, and just polished the car as best I could, wiped it all down, hit it with some Lolo's quick detailer, and then the next morning I dressed the tires and the plastics with just OptiBond tire gel in my gun 1-to-1, and then hopped in, dressed everything with interior finisher, and then did the windows and did a vacuum, and cleaned the wheels and pulled it out, and called him up, said, hey man, it's ready to go. You know, and at this time I'd probably spent right under 8 hours on this vehicle. And I was looking at it like, man, the truck needs a lot of work, and paint work, it could use a lot, but I know he's got 4 kids. And
it would be lost on that guy.
Well, he wants it to look that good. He wants it to look good. But I don't think he'd spend the money to do that. You know what I mean? And so,
well, and you wouldn't want to put him in a position where it's just going to happen again really soon.
Right, exactly.
That's,
and again,
that's kind of unfair to both parties.
You know, I was hoping to spend maybe 6 hours, maybe 5.5 if I could in that vehicle. So to get to almost 8 really frustrated me, because I couldn't. It got to that moment in my head where I was like, I'm not making very good money on this job.
Yeah.
And
but that's that turning point where you say,
right,
I'm no longer making the money that I was hoping I was going to make, but I have to finish it.
I have to finish it, and it tore me up physically. This shoulder has been in fear of locking just about every day. This elbow has been locking up all weekend, and so I'm hurting physically from working that hard on it. And so it was one of those things where I was like, do I, I feel bad, but the truck looked good, you know. It was polished out. The all-in-one had a filler in it, which I don't like doing, but at this price point, it's like I can't do more, because he's not going to pay for it, you know. And so I just had to kind of grin and bear it. And I told Carly that, you know, I'm not happy with myself for that, because I had done 2 cars previously the weekend before, had spent a total of 4 hours and made $500, you know.
Yeah.
And that I was like, man, those were easy cars to work on. They were fun. And that's what I want to do in my garage.
Yeah.
This kind of stuff I don't want to do. I don't want to be, I don't want to kill an entire day.
Well,
right?
Especially on your own too. Yeah. Especially,
right. You know,
yeah, like that's one of those, like, you know, just based on the pictures, seeing that, like I already, you know, I've done one of those jobs before, and I was like, you know, those just aren't worth it, you know, and it's hard because, you know, they have this expectation of what it will, of hopefully what it'll turn out to being. But then you overthink it in your head, and you're like, well, are they expecting it to be this good? Are they not expecting it to be this good?
Right.
You know, am I going to do a better job?
You feel like you're putting out bad work. And so, I finished it out. I made it look as good as it possibly could. And then I gave him a call and I said, "Hey, truck's ready to go. $350. Come on, get it." And he rolled over, picked it up, and was like, "Holy crap, dude, this looks so good. This is amazing." He opened the door and he started laughing. He was like, "What? I can't believe you got my seats. Look how clean these seats are. Oh my gosh, my wife's going to be so happy. She's going to want to drive it." It was that he was so impressed with the interior, like handed me my $350 cash and was just walking around it. He was like, man, oh, did you get those scratches out of the hood? And then I showed him and I was like, "I did not. They're still here and they are white. Like, what were you guys doing?" And that's when he's like, "Well, I don't know. I think there were some cats or something." I was like, "No, this looks like boxes." And
are those cats made of cardboard and being pushed across?
those cats are very square. But anyway, I just kind of explained. I said, if you're going to keep it for the rest, he had some tears in the leather. And I explained, I said, I've been going to the junkyard for stuff for mine. There's a lot of Tahoes and Suburbans that you can get a back seat out of that you want to get one that might be in good shape, or get a set of captain's chairs now that your kids are older. And he was like, "Oh, that's true. I didn't even think about that." Like, he goes, "I can take my son, my oldest, we can go pull a seat and put that in. That could be like a weekend project." And I was like, "Exactly. Like, you could do some stuff." But he was so stoked. And then we just sat kind of caught up. And then before he left, he handed me another $50 bill. And he's like, "Man, this thing looks so good. I really appreciate it." And that changed it to where I was like, "Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it." It still didn't.
He did good work.
It didn't make up for it, but it was the fact that he was so stoked about how clean it was and how happy it was, that he gave me that made me feel, a little bit better and
maybe more appreciated. Yeah.
How many times have we discussed with other detailers about understanding that your customers' expectations and your expectations may be vastly different? And just being able to understand that even if you felt like, "Oh, I did bad work," but you're like, "I did what I could with the time I had, the products I had, and I felt I did a good job with what I was, given."
Well, like,
and
I didn't
you have that person come in and they're just blown away. It's like, okay, once again, they're not coming at it with detail eyes. You are, but they're not. And they're looking going, "Oh my God, it's actually good again."
Well, and I didn't buff the roof because there's just so much time in it. So I just wiped it down.
It's a taller truck too.
Well, I wiped it down with quick detailer.
As long as you cleaned it and protected it.
I just cleaned it and wiped it down. I mean, the thing had hard water spots all up and down it. And it was just one of those things where I was like, this all-in-one's not going to do anything on this section. It's not going to be able to take care of it. It's not going to be able to clean it. It's not going to be able to do what I need it to do. So, and again, he hasn't looked up here. He's not taking care of the upper part of this.
The roof is going to need all the clear and paint it can get to avoid having burn through and stuff like that.
It was eventually. I just made it hydrophobic. You know?
Well, and that's the trade-off there with doing something like that, because that if you do polish that roof, right, on that kind of job, you were literally just running a polisher over it, which is not going to do enough to do anything.
It's not going to do enough to get the scale, the minerals, any of that stuff off.
So that's where you just knock it up to saying, like, on the job like that, either hit it with quick detailer, or you could have taken maybe that clay mitt with a little bit of the spray wax and then just clayed it, and then just said, hey,
I did clay the whole car, and I did when I washed it, I did fallout remover on it, and I gave it a really good decon wash, and then clayed it. So I did remove a lot of the material on it. I probably could have acid washed the roof or did some other stuff, but it was just one of those things where I was like, what is a necessity, and what is something that is going to make a difference? And so that the wash itself made a really big difference to it, and being able to clay the whole car made a massive difference. And so I think it helped with the all-in-one, but it was still one of those things where you look back and you go, do I need to do that? Yes or no? And for my brain, the reason I do this is, 1, keep the skills up, 2, play with products, but 3 is I want to be able to have fun, and I don't want to I like working on cars where I can spend my weekend still and go do stuff with my kids. I can still, I can work on a car for an hour and then go take a break and go mow the lawn or do what I need to do, and then come back and work on it again for maybe an hour or that kind of thing. But to kill an entire Saturday just knee deep in an suburban interior, it's not fun for me. And, it's not what I want to do. And so it made me rethink some of the things. And the reason I took the car was because, again, as a friend of mine, and I want the money, especially in this day and age where, we're not really sure how long this is going to keep going on or what we're going to be doing.
You have kids, they have special needs. You're looking out for them.
And I look at it too is I just take, I'm stockpiling that cash. It's literally cash I'm just keeping, so that we have cash on hand for the family. And because I don't know, you don't know if it's going to get to a point where it's like, hey, we got to run and get groceries and we just need some money. So that's why. And so it's like, it's providing a need and a necessity. So I can't just say like, no, I don't want to do your car. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know if I want to do your car, and I've got another car that is either this weekend or next weekend that is just a Mustang convertible.
Oh, okay.
But it hasn't been touched. It's a friend of mine's car.
What year is it?
It's like a 2000. I think it's a 2000 99 or a 2000 convertible GT.
Okay. So is the top on it original or replaced maybe or worn out?
No. It's one of those where it's just been sitting in a garage. It doesn't get driven.
Okay.
So I'm last I saw it was 5 years ago, and it was pretty rough then.
Oh.
And it's been on my schedule for the last 5 years to get done. So it's finally getting done, hopefully. And I'm scared.
Well, I think we're playing around with some convertible top products you might be able to use on it.
It's like I said, I don't even know what the top. I can't remember how good the top is or how bad it is.
If it's worth saving or not.
I don't know about the seats. It's leather.
So it spends time in a garage, but it's really rough. So I take it the rough stuff happened before it wound up in the garage. Okay.
Yeah. So my friend's parents bought it. They bought it brand new. They drove the snot out of it, had a lot of fun with it. They got divorced and his mom got it. Okay. But she doesn't drive it that much, if at all. And so it's just been sitting in the garage for 5 years, basically. And it hasn't been, when we worked at the car wash, we would wash it all the time for them. They'd come through, we'd clean it, whatever. That was when I first started detailing. This was one of the first cool cars that my friend's parents bought. Before that, it was just our normal family sedans. And so it was kind of a fun, my dad had the Supra that I used to play with, and then my buddy's mom had this Mustang convertible GT. And so we always thought it was kind of a neat car. And so I'm tempted to see, but it's one of those jobs where I'm like, it's a sedan, but it's black. Hasn't been buffed or polished in 10 years. It's probably had boxes sitting on it.
Probably.
But she wants to make it nice. So
okay.
And I don't know if she is planning on driving it or what, but it's going to be interesting to see. Needless to say. So stay tuned for that. But other than that, it was a pretty quick, fast weekend. We were going to go hiking yesterday, but torrential downpour, all the rain that we had. I'm glad we didn't head up to Bogus to go walk because it was
muddy.
So,
I
hear you there. Just been hanging out. So,
okay. Well, my weekend was a little more like Morgan's, kind of cleaning up around the house, little things here and there. Spent a lot of time recently binging Better Call Saul because I had not watched that, but I loved Breaking Bad when it came out. Watched the whole thing, obviously, when it was still like airing and everything, but I just never got to Better Call Saul because I at the time it started coming out, I was doing so much other stuff. It just didn't register. But
Yeah.
I saw it on Netflix and I'm like, oh yeah. And that recent El Camino movie came out. So I'm like, I'll go back and I'll start watching this. It's so good. And I thought it was funny because, okay, excellent. Thank you, Tim. I knew, Anthony, have you watched it at all?
No, I haven't.
Because there's a character who, I was going to say, there's a character with a gloss blue Evo, I think 8. And it's actually like kind of a plot point. Character drives it a lot in the show, like not just a little bit. But that's one of the things I really liked about the original Breaking Bad and in Better Call Saul. Vince Gilligan, the producer who did both shows and stuff, he used to do like X-Files and some other things. But the whole point was he kind of did cars as characters. So like when they pick the cars for people and stuff, they actually put some real thought into it. It's not just like whatever, give them a bland such and such. It's like, oh no, everything is extremely deliberate and says a lot about the person who drives it and stuff. So I really like that about the shows. So yeah, no, obviously anybody who's seen like Better Call Saul knows for the majority of the show, they see Jimmy McGill, aka Saul, driving around in like the worst looking Suzuki Esteem you've ever seen in your life. It is so sad looking. It's this horrible yellow color with a mismatched red door, and it has this side marker popping out. Like the whole thing is just extremely on brand. But no, I love that. And anybody who's looking for something to like dive into, they have a lot of seasons on Netflix now. You can dive pretty deep into it. I'm already in like season 4 now, but obviously that's what I've been spending my time doing. It's just like I enjoy good storytelling and creative, camera work and stuff, and that show has it in spades. So really, really recommend that to anybody who likes even like crime stuff. And I gotta say, like even people are maybe a little leery about like Breaking Bad. Oh, the violence, whatever. It's like Better Call Saul has a little less of that. It's a little slower burn show, so it's not quite as mean, intense. It has its moments for sure, and you get some cool backstory on the characters, but it's not as, I guess, intense as Breaking Bad was. This is a different thing, more character study stuff. So it's fun, good storytelling, and I really like the characters in it. But that's a whole other thing. If you like legal dramas, you'll like it too. Nice. So there's that. But yeah, no, that's kind of what I've been spending my time doing. Still haven't flushed a radiator in the truck, but I'll get around to it eventually here. I've just been doing other stuff.
Question, Dane, did you get yourself, when you built your new home office setup, did you get yourself a new office chair as well?
Yes, finally I did. I was using a kitchen chair forever, a wooden chair that did not roll. It was so uncomfortable.
I went out Friday after we got done with everything and went and looked at some office chairs because I am sans. We don't have here at the MOSHQ, we don't believe in workspaces. And so we believe in a chair for a table, chairs for the children's desks. But myself, I mostly hang out. So we don't have like a regular computer station or home office area. So I've been using this mechanics rolling stool here.
Oh yeah.
To do the live.
Does it have a back or is it just a stool?
No,
or?
It's just the mechanics stool that I did.
Thank
you. Bless you, Anthony. But it's you can't even see it.
It kind of disappears.
it is uncomfortable to say the least to sit longer periods of time. And then I've been using my
I saw you had a lawn chair.
That's my lawn chair that I was sitting in when we were doing all our podcasts. Just because I can't sit on this for more than like 30 minutes. The stool. And so I said, man, I need to get me an office chair. I went to Fred Meyer's and they wanted $100 for the cheapest one.
So you know what I did?
And I was like, so I've been on Amazon. I've been looking for some. I found some for like $60. I haven't pulled the trigger on it, but I figure if this is going to last for at least another 2 weeks where we're going to have to be doing stuff from home.
At least.
Maybe I'd, because my workspace here is my deep freezer in my garage. It works perfectly, holds all my stuff on, and I also have access to some ice cream novelties directly underneath my workspace. So if I want like a fudgesicle or a dreamsicle or some type of otter pop, I can just reach in, pull one out, and keep working. So that's been really nice. But I was thinking perhaps adding a chair to the MOSHQ.
Well, here's what I'll
for
say
this.
about that.
So-
Because if you recall, back before we started doing all these kind of remote style,
Yes.
chats and everything, there was that day everybody was at the store. It's like the last day we were really at the store, and they called the shelter in place that afternoon, and I had brought the Jag to work because I was just grabbing like a few little things. I wasn't planning on getting an office chair until I was out, and I was like, oh crap, I just have that wooden chair. That's going to be so uncomfortable to work from home if I have to do that. I'm going to go find something real quick. So I almost went to the office stores, and I was like, oh, they're going to be really expensive there. So I went to Active Office Furniture, like the used office furniture stuff. And I was like, maybe I can find like a nice chair, but at like a thrift store price. They weren't cheap, but I did get like $160 chair for $60. So still not bad. And that's what this is. It has been so much better sitting on this than just a wooden chair with no rollers or anything. So that's where I went, and they were open, and I was able to do that. But yeah, that I had to go home and switch cars and get back before they closed. It was a whole thing. But no, that was kind of panic setting in of like, oh no, I don't want to be that uncomfortable for that long if I have to do this for an extended period of time.
Well, I'm starting to feel it. Anthony, what are you sitting in?
I didn't sit at home on my office for longer than like half an hour to an hour at a time. Now it's like hours.
No, I am sitting. Hold on, let me show you what I'm sitting on. Look at this.
If we can see it too.
Yeah, you might have to turn off your.
This is a hard wood chair. This thing has been
looks like it's straight out of IKEA.
No, it has been killing my back, and I was wondering why. Like my lower back's been killing me, and I was like, oh, it's because that stupid chair. But I don't.
So get a different one.
Where I don't have a more comfortable chair in my house. I really don't. So
I think we're gonna have to buy some from Amazon.
I think we should all just get bean bags.
Oh, that's a great idea, Morgan.
Good idea.
Or ball chairs.
Ooh, ball chair.
Yeah, Morgan, what are you sitting
I remember
on?
those. I'm sitting on the floor. Thanks for asking.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Wait, so you're on the floor. Does that mean that table in front of you is like a coffee table then? Or
it is the coffee table, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So see, all of us have been displaced during this pandemic, not able to sit in our workspace chairs that we're normally into.
I had a feeling this is going to be fairly long term though, so I would recommend coming up with some more comfortable solutions.
Yeah, so I'm thinking of looking for something, because I'm like, man, if I got to sit out here for another month doing this,
something with a backrest would be a start.
Yeah, maybe I could lean without falling over, or something like that. So, but so I was just a question thought I'd ask.
No,
I know there's lots of listeners that are probably working at home too that are wondering about this as well. Maybe they didn't set up their own their chair solution package. And so we're gonna have to create our own podcast chair solution package.
So for fun, tell us what you have to sit on right now. If it's an impromptu setup, how did you makeshift your workspace?
Because I mean, like, you think about it, a lot of us maybe set up offices, or at least set up their computers in places. And when Carly and I, before we had kids, we had a computer chair, and we had a desk, and we had our computers and all that. But when we moved to this house in our old place, we kind of got rid of that because we kind of just didn't need to stay on the computer. Mobile technology was getting much easier. So you didn't need a desktop anymore. And then we just had iPads and our phones, and it was like, why do we need to have a big bulky machine again? And we don't do any video editing. We don't do any of that kind of stuff. So there wasn't a need for it. It was mostly surfing the internet. So that it didn't make sense for us. But now that we're having to work and actually do stuff, it's become a problem.
Realistically, I see this going on for a while. So you guys might as well look into some solutions sooner than later. Maybe rather than renting a $99 tool, you buy yourself a $99 chair. Just some ideas. True. And Morgan, if the floor is working for you, you can't fault it.
I'm just gonna get my yoga mat out and just
Although if you throw your beanbag chair in a closet, so you have to hide from your roommates, that also works apparently. So,
that
good advice for everybody. So before we wrap up here, I did want to say we've done some really excellent interviews, chats, discussions with some notable industry people over the last week. We're going to do more this week.
We've got a bunch coming out for you guys.
Yeah. So last week we did a number of them, and the first one we got out there was the one we had with Dylan Von Kleist and Phil Yu, and got that out last week. Then this morning I released our one with Eric Joseph from G Technic.
Nice.
So I've got that. I'll need to tie the audio to that here. I'll do that as soon as we're done here. But then we've got Rennie and Keith, which I may actually release a little later in the week because that one's really in depth. That one's really good and detailed. But tomorrow, I got to admit, I was really excited about tomorrow's that I'm releasing because that had Jimbo Balaam and Ian Rommelkamp from Autofiber. So I know a lot of people like, wait, what? You had a competitor on your no. That's part of the fun of it, really. I think, like, if you guys want to speak to that before we go here, I just thought that was a really good, interesting conversation and kind of opened the door to a lot of people who probably didn't know how all this stuff works.
Well, yeah, and it was just one of those things. We've been talking with Ian for a long time about wanting to do something together.
Yeah.
And so to have this opportunity to be able to do that now was perfect timing, and we had a blast. We probably could have kept.
It went on for like an hour and a half, but it could have kept going. Jimbo had to go, but I mean that whole conversation was just so interesting, and I think you guys are really gonna like it. And in order to get more people to come over to the podcast channel here, I'm actually having Tim slice up some clips that we can put onto the main channel to kind of like interest people and send them over so more people know about the podcast channel. Because right now we're sitting at like, I don't know exactly where we're at in subscriber count, but we're somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000. So we're working on it. But obviously our main channel is much larger. So we want to get some of that audience looking over going, oh, hey, you guys actually do longer form, like in-depth discussion stuff. So, hey, we want to share it with you guys. And please, if you know someone who's interested in this stuff, share it with them. That's the best we can do is, the main podcast here is us kind of telling our stories of fun, whatever. But when we have a guest on, we tend to get a little more in depth. We tend to talk about specific subject matter. And yes, COVID's been kind of the hot topic and everything lately. But with the Jimbo and Ian one, we actually got more into industry stuff. So we talked about microfiber at length. And we talked about, YouTube videos and making stuff and all that. So really interesting, really enjoyed that. And I know you guys are going to like it too if you already watch us anyway. So just tell a friend.
It was a blast. It really was to be able to spend time with them and just chat. And our goal is to try and bring more of those to you guys while we have this capability to do this. And obviously when we move into the new studio, we'll have that capability. What stopped us before was internet, right? Yeah. The internet was very poor. It was just the placement of the building and
the expectation of audio quality and stuff where we're in the studio, but then bringing someone in, it didn't work as well at the time when we didn't have a forced reason to have to work from home and being kind of like working off our phones essentially and stuff. So now that this is all kind of even, people are okay with it. People understand it. But if we had done it before, people kind of probably would have complained. So we just wanted to make sure we had it just right before that happens. But in the new studio that you guys are getting taken care of, that will be taken care of. But we will be able to have remote guests going forward.
Yeah. But what we're planning on doing is getting some more folks in here. We've got a couple lined up for this week as well that we're going to be doing. And so it should be fun. So I'm excited to do these, and I'm excited for our listeners. Hopefully they'll enjoy them as well. So
yeah.
So Anthony, Morgan, Levi, anything to add here before I wrap us up?
Nope, I'm good.
Nope, all good. Okay. Well, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. And make sure you are subscribed to the Rag Company Podcast YouTube channel. If you're not, make sure you click the button, but also click the bell. That makes a big difference. It lets you know when stuff actually comes out. And, it helps our views go up. We want that because then more people find out about us. Who doesn't want that? So, at any rate, that's us. And we'll see you later. Adios.
All right. See you guys.
See ya.